Mikee P, Mike Probosi in the Money Players podcast, and we have opening day at Keeneland. Welcome back to Keeneland. Actually, my favorite racetrack on planet Earth, and bring in young gun Jackson Muniz for his analysis for the late pick 5 for Friday opening day. Jackson, welcome in.
What's going on, Mikee P? Excited to be here, ready for some Keeneland. Been looking forward to it for pretty much since the meet ended last October, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love Keeneland. Too bad Mother Nature doesn't love it as much for this opening weekend. Plenty of rain in the forecast, almost to the point where there was talk that they may cancel cards or move them to next week. Any latest buzz you've seen? I checked Twitter this morning. We're recording this on Wednesday. Nothing quite yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything yet, and I think the big downpour is supposed to be Thursday, so I would imagine we'd probably hear by then. But as of right now, it sounds like they're going to try to go at least for this weekend.
Yeah, and who knows? We're going to handicap these races for the late pick 5 on Friday. There's a couple turf races in it, and what we'll do is we'll give you some dirt ideas and we'll give you some grass ideas, because it's tough for us to know this early what they're going to do, if they'll stay on the grass. So we'll give you a little of both there to give you ideas for both. Hard to know without scratches. So we're going to preview these races, but if you get in this analysis and some of these horses are scratched or you have surface switches, definitely pay attention to that. Late pick 5 for Friday, April 4th, opening day. Keeneland starts on the turf. We'll see about that. Going a mile. It's a 2X Jackson. How are we going to kick it off?
Yeah, well, if this race does stay on the grass, it's going to be wet. So right away, my eyes are going to be drawn towards the outside with Intellect number 11 for Chad Brown, Flavian Pratt. I don't really have too much info on this horse, to be honest. I'd like to do find out a little bit more. I haven't been able to find too much yet, but this is obviously a horse that has handled the soft ground before. He's run it over in Europe several times, has run well. Pretty much every start he's been in the money 8 of 9. And you got to imagine for these connections, this horse is going to be pretty live. So he's one I'm going to use on the wet grass. The other one, a bit of a price horse, Raptors, number 5 for Mark Cassie. Cassie Barn obviously going really well right now. Brazilian horse here. And the debut, North American debut over at Woodbine was quite good. I mean, he had kind of a wide trip, was right up on the pace, and finished 4th that day. But that was a good field and got a really strong number. Then came back on Pegasus Day, and just the trip just didn't work out. It was a wide trip. It was speed favoring turf course. Didn't break that well. And again, the number came back okay, especially if you're looking at the time for him. So I want to give him a shot at 15-1. First time gelding also picks up Jose Ortiz. A lot of things to like at this horse at a price. So he's one I would use. And then on both surfaces, I do want to use the 2 Georgie W, just because the Walden Barn was so hot last fall in the fall meet. I mean, they were winning everything. And this is a horse that has always run really well fresh, handles the turf, handles the dirt, handles the offgoing, blinkers on. I think there's a lot of things to like about this horse. Good inside draw and can really do it all. He can win from on the lead or just off of it. So he's a horse I'm going to use pretty much no matter. As long as he enters in this race, I'm going to be using him on all my tickets. And then as far as the dirt goes, there's actually some horses that have some decent dirt. I already mentioned the 2 Georgie W. White Goes, a horse for Wesley Ward that's pretty quick. He's going to have to deal with the stretch out, but he's one that has run well over this track before, so I'll probably use him. And then also Big Bomber. This is Oscar. Kept some good company this winter over at Oakland, running against some good horses. Henro, Booth, those are all stakes quality sprinters. Stretched out last time, was right up on there on fast pace and ran second going 2 turns. That was a good effort. And then Tough Little Nut is another one that has good dirt for him. The once off track effort, finished second in a stakes race. So that was just 2 starts ago. Got a good strong number in that one as well. So a little spread in here, but just tough to know with this race with the weather. So we'll know more come Friday.
Agree. And I agree on several of the numbers that you mentioned. Intellect, the 11 is obvious on the grass. If you look at those lines, soft turf, heavy going at Longchamp, you're not going to get a more stiffer test. And this horse is winning listed stakes over there. Here comes over here. You get Pratt, you get Chad Brown, who's 42% first time North America with a positive ROI. He's 29% first time with him. So it's hard to refute this one, especially if they do decide to go in the grass and it's wet, and it's going to be wet if they do go on there. So he's obvious to me. Agree on the 5. I do think that that's another one, Raptors, that can win. If you look at his lines, won a couple grade 1 races in Brazil. on off-going. So off-going turf courses, this horse excels. Recent gelding, that was back in February. That was since his last start. You get Jose Ortiz. There's lots to like on that one, 15-1 morning line. If they do go on the turf, I do expect this horse to come down from that line. So I do think that one is definitely a use. I could see the 7, El Razine, especially if they stay on. This is Pletcher here. This horse tried the Jockey Club Derby and ended up 3rd there against Carson Run and Deterministic. I think both of those horses would be favored versus these. Has some decent lines going long. Has a line on the Keeneland grass on a good surface last year from off the pace where faced White Palomino in there. And I like horses that race well over this course. And so has shown an affinity for an off course here. You get Irad. There's lots to like if they stay on the turf. I think you mentioned the right ones for the dirt. The 4 Wico, I think, is a definite use. I could see the 10 also. Tough Little Nut. If you look back to the Woodchopper at Fairgrounds in the slop on December 28th, came flying 4th, 2nd, got an 89 buyer on the dirt. So that's this horse's highest number. Maybe, he is a little bit of a hidden dirt type, even though decent races over the turf. I do think that one would be a definite use on the a surface switch. It seems to like the slop also. That horse could probably take a lot of money if they do come off. But lots of different options there to open up that late pick 5 on Friday at Keeneland. Let's switch to race number 7. It's the listed Lafayette. They're going for $400,000, Jackson. Straight 3-year-olds. I would expect Colloquial to take plenty of money. 6-5 morning line coming out of that 106 buyer. 2nd place finisher. Ended up winning back out of that race with a nice figure. This horse could be a special talent. I know that George Weaver could have been tempted to the Derby trail with this one, is staying short. You single in here?
I think I am going to single, but I'm going to try to beat Colloquial. I have no knocks against him except the short price. He's obviously done absolutely nothing wrong. I just think there's a horse in here that's also pretty talented and is going to be in front of him. So I'm going to try to get by with the Royal Horse Gunmetal. I liked his debut effort. It was pretty good. It might not be as good as the number suggests. A lot of horses in there have come back to regress, but that was just the debut effort. And it was, even if it's 8 points too high, it's still really strong for the first time out. And I just really liked his swell effort. He was bet down in that spot and he was just never in a good spot. He was always in between horses and he was about, a head behind. So he was just pressured on both sides the entire race. That was a very, very fast pace that completely set up for a closer and Gate to Wire, who also enters in here. And whenever I see horses with that speed trip in between horses, it's very difficult. A lot of times these horses just spit the bit. It's almost an automatic toss race for me. And the fact that this horse still ran that well, I was impressed with what he did. And obviously they came back live. Macho Music was a horse that he dueled with that day, came back to run about a 95 buyer, I believe, won by open length. So it seemed like it was a good effort in there. They've given him some time since that race. I think he's going to come back with a much improved effort. And I'm looking at this field, and there's a lot of speed, but there's not really a true burner in this spot. I think with the rail draw, Flavien Prat, it's going to be very, very aggressive from there, and he's going to try to take this field as far as it can. And hopefully it's going to be enough to get the jump on Colloquial and hold him off late.
Yeah, I do agree that he had a tough trip in that in the Swale Stakes. However, I expected more from him in there. Now, Gate to Wire aired. Came back and ended up stretching out and not racing as well in the Fountain of Youth. I just think that the Colloquial is going to be very difficult to beat here. It just looks very fast, tactical, can sit off it, doesn't necessarily need the front, has a good track win. So, there's going to be moisture in the track. Just really a tough one to oppose for me in there. If I was going to, I don't mind the 8, Rolando. This horse, 8-1 morning line. Ran into River Thames back in February. And if you watch that race, this horse was very sharp in there, really dogged it out with River Thames in that race and ended up fading late. Well, we know what that horse did coming back on that Triple Crown trail. He's going to show up in a bluegrass this weekend. Well, went to a 1X, dominated, then went to the Hutchison and raced very well again to win. I think this horse is progressive. You get Irad here, plenty of speed. You get an outside post. This would be the one I think that could give Gunmetal plenty of problems early, maybe set it up for the favorite. But if I was going to oppose the favorite in here, I would be looking towards the 8. But I do think that most of my money will run through the favorite there in the Lafayette on Friday. Let's switch to the grade 3 Transylvania. Supposed to be on the grass on Friday. A mile and a 16th Jackson. Straight 3-year-olds. Big pot, 600,000. Very wide open race. Give your thoughts for the grass and then the dirt.
Yeah, if this is on the grass, this is an awesome race. It is very, very tough in here. I think my top 8 would probably be towards number 9, Tom's Magic, who really hasn't done nothing wrong in his first 3 starts. Ran second first time out. It was well beaten second, but got a really good number in that effort. Came back and won at Fairgrounds, and then they entered him in a stakes race back in March off a bit of a break, going up against a couple of these in Golden Afternoon and Chasing Liberty, who are both pretty good horses in their own right, and he won that race very comfortably in the end. He won by 2 lengths. That's a pretty easy win on the grass, and I like his tactical speed. He can sit just off of it and come pretty far out of it, and he is able to finish. So at 12-1, he's one I'm going to use probably as my best, as my best pick in this race on the grass. I think Hammerhead towards the outside is a little interesting as well. I know the turf numbers seem a little slow, but those came back in October, and he was just 3/4 of a length behind me, Bago, back in January, and that horse is 3-1, drawn just to his inside. So if this horse has improved at all off of the bench, off the refreshing, I think he can be pretty tough in here. Obviously, the post it's not easy. He's gonna have to overcome that, but at 20-1, I'm gonna throw him in there at a big price. And then Test Score is a horse I have to use. I had him so big at Del Mar in the Breeders' Cup Undercard, and he ran huge that day. Just got second at a big price. Nothing wrong with his effort last time in his first start for 2025. The pace just didn't really set up for him. He ran fine. I would expect him to move forward off of that one. But again, this is a very tough race. I could be tucked into some others in this spot as well for the grass.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to look past me, Bago. I think on either surface, really, just because he's so fast. That race last time on March 1st at Gulfstream was wicked. I mean, 22, 45, 108, and kept on rolling there. Now, I know that there were horses that maybe didn't come out of that race to really perform, but I just think that on a wet track or even on a sloppy track, this horse is going to have an advantage early. And this horse won on a good turf at Woodbine back in October of last year, so that should be no issue. He's going to, I think, get the jump here. Now, I know he's 2-1 morning line or 3-1 actually morning line, and he doesn't necessarily offer a ton of value, but it is a wide open race. So I do think that he has a lot of merit in this race. I could see the 2 also, Reagan's Wit. This is one you didn't mention, but this is Cherie DeVoe, Jose Ortiz, and nice, huge win at Fairgrounds on January the 20th over a good course. 8-length win from Nowheresville, really was way back early and flew to win and aired by 8 lengths late. Tried the Columbia Stakes at Tampa on March the 8th and ended up getting beat by Zulu Kingdom, a horse that has plenty of class and certainly back form for whenever it was a 2-year-old. So no disgrace there. Now shows up here. I think if you get the turf, and it's going to be an off turf for sure, this horse is going to move way up over that. So really hard to leave that horse off, especially if they stay on the grass. So I would definitely use that one in the race. A couple others I think that have a chance. You mentioned Test Score, must use for me. How about Scipio, though, the 8? Coming in from California. I just like the last 2 races. The maiden win was pretty sharp over Muscle, who came back to win. But I really like that down the hill, Baffle. This horse really raced well late. Was flying, just crushing at the end of that race, going 6.5 down the hill. Interesting that they show up here. Now, maybe the off grass might not suit. That's hard to gauge. But I just liked what I've seen. You get Pratt here, sticks with this horse. I do think has plenty of talent and could be interesting and probably will get lost on the board in the race. Now, as far as dirt goes, it's going to be the AEs. I would use Bago if he stays in, but Subterranean's a horse that I liked back in the Mucho Macho Man earlier this year. It was just okay. Those races at Charlestown and Loyal, this horse I thought showed some talent. They tried the Risen Star. No chance in there the way the race shaped. Now, this is a much better spot here, especially if this comes off the grass. I do think probably gets a little bit of a class drop versus the ones that will actually show up in here. Now, he will take money if he does stay and if it goes off the grass, but I do think that he has a lot of merit. But there's other ones also. The 16, if that one stays in for Pletcher, recent maiden winner at Tampa, could be a use. I do think that the 13 Barricade for another Pletcher horse, if that one stays in, has dirt breeding, So that would be one that I would use also. Another wide open race. We have a hard time figuring who is going to go where, depending on the surface. What dirt thoughts do you have?
Yeah, just real quick on the dirt thoughts. I am going to use on the dirt, if the 10 stays in Clock Tower, I think he's going to be pretty live in this spot. I like the effort in the Bob Lewis where he had no chance going against the 3 Bafferts that kind of just controlled that race. And he actually got a 96 time for number in that spot where he just didn't get an ideal trip. And that would actually hold up pretty well compared to what other horses have run in this race as far as dirt form goes. And I would expect him to just be all out to lead in this spot. I think he's run really well on the dirt as a 2-year-old. So I don't think dirt's going to be an issue for him at all. He's also run well in the off-going, so I would use him for sure. And then the same with number 3, Golden Afternoon, who ran LeCompte. I know the number came back a little slow, but a lot of horses in that race have come back to improve their speed figures. And he ran quite well in that spot. He was right up on the pace. It was very hot pace that kind of came apart, and he still did well to finish 4th. So those are probably the 2 I would use, both speed types, and both have proven form over the dirt and off-going.
Certainly going to be a wild race there in the Transylvania, depending on what surface they race on Friday. Well, let's go to the Grade 1 Ashland here, the feature for opening day at Keeneland. Mount a 16th Jackson, a 3-year-old fillies. And I thought a pretty interesting race. I was going to use 3 horses in here for multis. I think Mohima deserves another chance. Now, this is going to be probably the favorite here with Pratt, Cox, ran into Quiet Side, 5G in that Honeybee at Oaklawn. I thought raced okay, did have a perfect trip. I will say that. And just couldn't go with the top 2. Now, the way that racetrack played, I do think that maybe, she could have had trouble there. Maybe it was the distance. That I know she has a mount an 8th win, but it seemed that she was left a little bit wanting there late versus those 2. But both of them came back to win this past weekend and race extremely well. So hard to fault her for losing to those 2. I'll use her. I think the 5 running away has merit. It's Wesley Ward. You have, that big blowout Churchill win, plenty of speed. I do think that the Mount and 8th win at Aqueduct was sharp back in January. So probably could control this race. I do think that they might have to catch her, even though there's other speed in here. I would want her at the fact that Ward's in here. I do think that she rates a big chance. And then the 6, Take Charge Milady, 8-1 Morning Line. I think she'll come down. No chance in the Honeybee. Brutal trip there. A couple nice wins at Oaklawn prior to that. The maiden win was nice. The listed stake win was nice back in January. Now, you get a jockey switch here too, which I do think is intriguing. Definitely will be on my tickets. What say you?
Yeah, I'm going to try to get a little creative in this spot. Look Forward is supposed to run at Keeneland on Friday. Heard she shipped, so I think she's going to add a lot of pace to this race. I'm not in love with the favorites in here. Mohima, I have serious questions about whether she can get the 2 turns. I know she won a mile and 8th, but she had everything her own way that day and was kind of all out to win in a race that really hasn't held up too well. And then last time the Honeybee, I agree. I think she kind of had everything her own way. And those 2 horses ran away from her late. I know they came back and did really well, but I just feel like she's going to be completely overbet in a spot like this. Running away, got her win last time on a very, very speed favoring track. You can go on the NYRA website and it says extreme speed bias on January 18th. So want to downgrade that performance. And there's other speed in here. Super speed I can't take because the last time you and I think both needed her pretty badly. And I have no idea how she lost that race. And I don't know, it just wasn't a great field that day either. So I think there's a spot you can try to beat these favorites in here. Agree on Take Charge Malay. She'd be my top pick. No idea what happened last time, but her form prior to that was really good. She's proven on the offgoing. She was clearly better than Quiet Side in that Martha Washington. I mean, I know Quiet Side had a little bit of trouble, but it was not 6 lengths worth of trouble in that spot. So that race was really encouraging to me. I want to give her another chance. Agree that she's not going to be 8-1. She'll probably be a little bit lower than that, but she will be my top pick in here. And then I'm going to use the number 8 at Admit, who coming from Turfway has actually run okay on the dirt before as a 2-year-old. And those numbers were pretty comparable to what she did in her first couple starts over at Turfway. So I think she'll probably be able to handle it. And then she had some trouble in her last couple starts. The Cincinnati Trophy, just a wide trip and moved a little too early, maybe let the leader get away from her. And then last time, it's not really listed in the PPs, but she was in a good spot the whole time. And she just did not get out of that pocket. By the time she finally got clear running, the deep closers were just gone. It was way too late. She finally got free, and she did stay on to get 3rd, but I think she might have been best that day. So I want to give her another chance at a very big price in here.
Yeah, I remember you did like that one in that spot. Back pretty quick though. Back in a couple weeks here to show up, and that's certainly an issue. But you are going to get a price, and you definitely and what you say is true. Some of those things with the favorites, there are holds there for sure. that those will have to overcome it. And Take Charge Milady should be probably the right one in there, especially if the track should come up sloppy. This horse has raced well over that sort of surface. So I do think that might be the one to lean on. But I do think that some of the others do have merit in that Grade 1 Ashland. Pretty wide open race there on Friday. Let's go to the finishing leg here. Straight threes again, Jackson. It's an allowance race, starter allowance for 50,000s. Horses that have started for a claiming tag of 50,000. 7 furlongs. How are we going to get paid?
Yeah, another race where I think you got to watch scratches because a lot of these AEs look pretty interesting in this spot. So definitely take a look and see who gets in. They all look like they have a decent chance in this race. I think my top pick would probably be Sister Carly, drawn in post 12. I really like the debut effort over at Ellis Park back last August. It was a slow pace. She didn't break that well. She had traffic, said she bled. I mean, a lot of things went wrong that day. The pace completely held together. She's really the only horse I made any kind of move in that spot. And, the number came back okay for an August 2-year-old. And then she wasn't seen for a long time, which was a bit concerning, but she came back at Turfway and she won from off the pace and she did really well in that spot. The horse she ran down, Bindi, is also entered here. She came back to win pretty impressively. So it seemed like that race is probably pretty productive. And I think she's one that's going to move forward second start off the bench. I like the outside draw, especially when on the off going. I think you can kind of stay out of some of that kickback sometimes. And, we'll see what she's got at 8-1. And then the other one I'm going to use is number 5, Ms. Malice, who's another price in this spot. Just one that has really strong dirt numbers that came as a 2-year-old. Those numbers are pretty comparable to what horses some of these favorites are running right now as older 3-year-olds. So if she's able to improve from that, I think she'll be very tough. I'm willing to forgive the synthetic efforts just because they were so bad. And then go back to her debut when she ran on the turf. It's kind of the same thing where she just got a really bad number, moved to the dirt, and instantly improved. And then as soon as she got off the dirt, went to the synthetic and was just instantly dreadful again. So I think she's just a horse that is just best on the dirt. That's the hope, at least. And at 15-1, I think I'm willing to find out. She should be pretty forwardly placed in this spot and probably get the first jump on the deeper closers. So those are probably the 2 I'm going to use in this race. Maybe I'll just back up the number 8, Bindi, just because I don't think there's a whole lot of speed in here. But again, it kind of does depend on who draws in from the also eligible list.
Absolutely. That's the key here, because if the 16 Sherbini draws in, that one is probably going to take a ton of money. And if you look, Good Cheer, Immersive, Queen's MG last year, I know that we like this horse, I think, in the Schuylerville last year. So was definitely facing the heavies at 2. Now shows up here, would add Lasix. This one will take a ton of money if she does draw in, but they might wait for a better spot, especially depending on the track. I'm sure that there's other fish that they're looking to fry with that one this year. You didn't mention the 11 Golden Irish, who I think is probably a horse that needs to be used, especially coming off that 75 buyer last time at Fairgrounds. Certainly always takes money for Amos. Had a blowout win over the racetrack back in October of last year. So that's something that it's hard to look past here. Also, definitely speedy, probably is going to be the one to catch. So I do think, and raced okay over the mud in November. That would be probably my top pick in here, even if the 16 does draw in. So I would lean heavily on the 11 and the 16. And then, depending on who draws in, I mean, there's backups. I think the 14 can be used, Autumn Rhythm. The 15, Madeline's Promise, can be used, depending on if they're in the race and others aren't. So there's others that have merit here. I think the 8, like you mentioned, is a definite use in the race. The 12 is another one that I had written down. So we'll see who draws in here in the last, and hopefully we can get alive to a bunch of them in this late pick 5 on Friday at Keeneland. Well, Jackson, the weather certainly is an issue. We're not certain of how things are going to go, but we're very happy Keeneland is returning.
Yeah, and it's going to be good either way. I think a lot of these races will still be very competitive no matter what happens. It looks really good, and really looking forward to the entire meet.
Well, this has been a production of In the Money Media. Check out all the Keeneland coverage for the meet. We're going to have shows on Fridays and Saturdays, these live video podcasts that you can check out. Plus, we're going to have some coverage on the plus side. So inthemoneypodcast.com/plus, if you want to catch a lot of that. Tons of great written content on the inthemoneypodcast.com website. So go there, check out the analysis. We'll see you guys next time. Jackson, thanks for joining me. Hope to talk to you soon.